wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Latifa Bello, and I'm a volunteer at CMX Connect Lagos. I also have Margaret. Margaret is also a volunteer at CMX Connect Lagos. So this host for CMX Connect Lagos, Eitayo Alimi. I don't know if she's on the call. Then, we have our speaker with us already. Her name is Anifa Abdurrahman Leki. So that's some housekeeping. So acknowledgements, we have some partners, Common Room, Microsoft Teams, and Beauty Odyssey. So what's Common Room? Common Room is the leading intelligence community group platform. It offers more than 25 native integrations, everything from Slack, Discord, and Discuss to Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, GitHub, Reddit, and Bevy, and also CRMs like HubSpot and Salesforce. Then it also unifies all community data to deliver actionable insights. Some of Common Room supporters include Asana, Airtable, Atlassian, Confluence, HubSpot, Figma, just to mention a few. They said they love using Common Room because it's easy to send automated messages, manage and track community cohort programs, and also set up real-time alerts for any type of community activity. Okay, so beautyodyssey.co is your one-stop shop for your all beauty. So the store offers variety of uniquely crafted beauty products from around the world. So they bring you different products. Every Friday, there is a pop-up show that brings you uniquely different products for office, home, living, kids, cooking, decoration, and lots more. The best part is that every order comes with an additional gift. I think I'm... So visit their website today and experience beauty without borders. So finally, we have Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is the all-in-one app for communication. More is possible when you are together in Microsoft Teams, chat, call, meet, share files, and collaborate on documents all in one place. You can also use community in Microsoft Teams to engage in community discussions, share files and photos, plan events, and more. And so you don't necessarily have to do the switching thing between apps to get things done. Microsoft Teams connects you with anyone, anywhere, all from one place. So that's some housekeeping about the sponsors. So we'll be moving to the next thing on the agenda, which will be our session. And our session is about unlocking the power of community data. As everyone would know, community data to me is not yet explored as much as it can be explored. So that's why we organized this event to get more actionable insights on how to actually utilize the power of community data to like transform and get more out of our communities, since we are all community managers. So our speaker is Anifa Abdurrahman Leki. She's a community and programs manager at Ingressive for Good. Anifa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, so are you ready for us?
I think so.
Okay, so you have the floor.
All right. Let me try sharing my screen. All right. Hi everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good day. My name is Hanifa, and today we are going to be talking about unlocking the power of community data. Funny enough, I think a couple of months ago as well, I discussed something around this topic around community data metrics and how measuring success, for your community is super important. And I took a little bit different stab at it today. So to an extent, we can to kind of like understand what community data is, and how we can attack it. I use the word attack because data itself can be boring, right? And not a lot of community managers like to touch data or even look at data in the first instance. So today's expectations, again, majority of it will be introductory. Yes, we'll go a little bit deeper on some parts, but we can't talk about community data or the entirety of it in one day. So we'll understand the value of community data. We'll look at some of its applications, and then I'll share some best practices. So this quote by Albert Einstein: "Not everything can be counted that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted." And this really, really stuck a chord at me, because there's some community data that you would assume or think that, oh, this is super important, but on the long run, it does not have value. And there are some things that you would think that does not have value, but they can be counted, does not mean that it doesn't have value. So, what is community data? Community data refers to the valuable information and insights that can be generated within an online community or an offline community, any type of community. And it comprises of, we all know what community is. And as a community manager, understanding community data is crucial, as it allows you to gain deep insights into your members' behaviors, their preferences, their needs, because needs can change over time. A lot of times we've seen community managers that start a community because of this particular preference or needs of their community members, but over time things will change, right? For instance, a new techie, or a techie that is just joining a new community, or yeah, a new techie essentially, that's looking to start a career in tech. Over time, his needs and preferences will change, because he has already started this, let's say 1 year into the community, he has successfully started his career into tech, and now he wants to probably go higher or upskill and things like that. So the needs and preferences will change. And for you to be able to understand and get insight into things like that, you need community data, you need metrics essentially. And the data can be quantitative or qualitative data. I'll talk about this later. And it involves both explicit data, which is those that are like voluntarily provided by community members, so surveys, responses, things like that, and then implicit data. These ones are the ones that are derived through interactions. So that's where you start to see engagement level or sentiment analysis and things like that. So next, why measure community success? Why measure data? Why is metrics important? One, to enhance decision making process. I already gave an example about this. It help as a community manager. Sometimes, yes, we go in with heart and soul, like we're a people person, and we want to just be there for people and create stuff and have make them have an amazing time. But at the end of the day, on the long run, if you're not able to use data to make well informed decisions, um rather than assumptions, you probably not be serving your community well. And like I mentioned earlier, yes, as community managers, a lot of time, which is not a bad thing, a lot of time we go into it with intuition, with assumptions, with things that, oh, this thing is really, really paining people, and we know that it is paining people. But at the end of the day, if you're not backing all these decisions with data, or at least most of the decisions with data, you might not be able to address the core issues, or proactively even address issues. Then two, identify areas of improvement. So of course, data will tell you that maybe last month you you increased in community engagement. This month it was super low. Now, yes, that's a trend. It will help you to know what area to improve, what topics you need to tackle, things like that. Same thing with community initiatives. As community managers, we're always creating content. And when I say content, I mean, programs, synchronous, asynchronous, and things like that. So for your events, you want to know, oh, how well was my event? Or for the posts that you're sharing on your community platform, how well is that doing? And things like that. Therefore, you want to demonstrate value to stakeholders. So, for instance, if you are working for a company or for a business, stakeholders are people reporting to, then your colleagues, then even your community members. So you want to be able to tell them that, oh, this particular thing that you're doing as a community manager for your community is super important, and this is the response. Most of the time, even as community managers, most especially in non-profit organizations, you want to demonstrate values to, your funders, to people that you're fundraising from, and telling them that the money that they're dropping, this is, the kind of value that they're getting for it. And then finally, this I feel like this is my favorite part, the personalized community experience. Understanding community data to enable you to personalize interactions, to personalize content for community members. I use this a lot. For instance, when I send out newsletters and there are CTAs in those newsletters, and a lot of community members respond to it that, oh, Anifa, this was really, really, affecting me, or this was really, it's like as if you were speaking to me, and blah 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 blah. Like those kind of things really, it makes you feel good, and it just makes you know that you're actually creating the right content. By the time you're writing the next newsletter, you start to make reference to, the former newsletters that you're sending, and over time you're creating a trend by, create tailoring content and experiences based on those kind of data. You're enhancing engagement, you're fostering, stronger relationships between members within the community. I'll pause here. Let me know if I'm still on track. Hi Margaret, hi Latifa, am I on track?
Yes, you are
Okay.
following, noting things down.
All
I
right,
might
thank
become
you.
a data analyst after this. Who knows?
So numbers have an important story to tell. They rely on us to give them a clear and convincing voice. This time around, we're not talking about analysis of that data. Of course, we don't expect that community managers become data analysts all of a sudden. I think I'll still talk about the kind of people that you tend to work with. You work with data analysts, especially if your team is large enough. And over time, even as community managers, there's some a little bit of tips and tricks on maybe Google Sheet and Excel sheet that you just have to learn to be able to derive some data on your own. So by leveraging metrics and analytics, community managers can foster a thriving and successful community environment. So now I talked about quantitative, qualitative metrics earlier. There's also the hybrid metrics. So now we're talking about types of community metrics. So these are quantitative metrics. Quantitative metrics are essentially what you can count, like you can count them. For instance, user count or member growth. These are the number of people that actually register in your community, or people that are members in your community. There's even difference between number of people that registered to join the community versus number of people that are in the community. For instance, let's say 200 people use the opt-in form, they filled it, but the number of people on the, let's say your Telegram your platform is Telegram, are maybe 150. You can see that's a number, that's something. It's already telling you something, that it's possible that we do have 200 people that have opt-in to join the community, but we have about 150 on the community platform that are actively engaging. um Active members, these are people that regularly participating and engaging within the community. It helps you to know the level of engagement and retention rates. So now we've known that 200 people, for example, we've known that 200 people are have registered to join the community. We've known that 150 of them are actively on the platform. And then for you to know the active members, maybe we know that in a month, about 100 of them are actually engaging. They're actually, you know, commenting, they're creating content, and all of all that. So that would tell us that maybe about 50% of our community are active members. Another quantitative metric is engagement rates. So this will help you tell metrics like number of posts that people are posting on your community platform, comments, likes, shares, how many the amount of time that people are spending on your platform. And of course, high engagement will let you know that you have a vibrant and active community, but don't let that fool you. Sometimes high engagement does not necessarily mean that your community is active or your community is vibrant. So there's a lot of other metrics that should also kind of support and know, what a healthy. So at the end of the day, what you're targeting is a healthy, community. Then qualitative metrics. These are things that you can't necessarily count, but they mean something. So, for instance, user satisfaction. This one helps you to know the overall level of experience that your community are having with you. So, let's say you do a survey or you do feedback forms or you do one-on-one interviews with your members. The kind of responses that you get from there will help you to know how satisfied your community are, or what areas they think that you should do better, or those kind of things. They're qualitative. Then feedback, um again, it's also very, very depends on how you create the questions as well. I think it's also very important to mention that for instance, if you do rates between 0 and 5, 0 being the lowest and 5 being the highest, how engaged you are in the community. Rate between 0 and 5, how you love the community events. So those are feedback. Those are things that you can also use to gauge um um which are depending on what exactly what kind of feedback you want to get from the community. Then finally, sentiment analysis. This one, it can be the least people do not necessarily target, but can be the breaking point for your community, actually, especially if you're able to get this data very well. And they're usually expressed through text. Some you can also get them through your surveys as well. Texts like, oh, I'm so happy today, like this community is giving. Imagine screenshotting that and keeping it in your community file. Those are sentiment analysis. Now, another thing that I want to make this a raw data, or make this an actual metric, would be the number of text, or the number of expressions that people have done towards your community per month. So let's say in a month you were able to gather about 10 to 20. Month 2 you're able to gather about 50. Month 3 you're able to gather more than. So that kind of thing is already increasing, and you know that the sentiment towards your community is actually really, really good. Surveys, just to get it as well. Questions like open-ended questions like, what's the general feedback that you would give, or are you feeling good about the community? And then comments like that are what would help you to gauge sentiment analysis. Then hybrid metrics. Hybrid can either be qualitative or quantitative, like it's a mixture of both qualitative and quantitative. And usually these hybrids, or these two major metrics here, is a is kind of like a is an overall measure of all of majority types of metrics, or a lot of other metrics. So for example, net promoter score, it helps you to measure the loyalty and advocacy of your community members. So for instance, how, like, when you on your in your survey questions or in your feedback form, you're asking your community members how likely they are to recommend your community to other people. That would help you to know how loyal people are to your community, and how they are talking to other people about your community. Or another question that can be about how many people have you told about our community today, right? So those are like, MPS scores. There are so many different ways to also measure this. Again, we can't talk about data, all of data today. Then coming this is, again, combines multiple factors, combines multiple tricks, active members or engagement rate, growth rate. That's for you to know what your community health hints is. And again, like I said, this hybrid stuff actually give you would give you a view of your community well-being and can be used as a benchmark. So what your community health index is in Q1 versus Q2 versus Q3 and things like that. Now we're going into data collection and data privacy. But very soon we're going to be going into because that's when you now start to see how exactly data is actually important. Case in point, value, the value of data. So yeah. So when you're collecting data, these are some things that community managers should, keep in mind. Transparency and consent. Must be transparent about the data that you want to collect and seek consent from community members. Usually, for instance, sending a survey, literally just writing at the top of the survey and saying that, oh, this data, we're collecting it because we want to know, we want to get feedback from you and we want to know how to serve you better. This data would not be shared with anybody else. Things like that. So just so it helps to inform your members that you are being you are being transparent and they should trust you with with the data that they're giving you. When you're collecting data that have sensitive information, ensure that responses are kept anonymous and confidential. And that also includes, again, explicitly stating it and writing it that the data is going according to regulation, because it goes into number 3, compliance. There are some regulations and data collection laws out there that you should probably read about just to ensure that you're collecting data the proper and right way. Then finally, secure data storage. Nobody wants their dark secrets out there, so ensure that you are using measures to protect your data. The funny thing is that a lot of time, data being collected, especially from community itself, are not usually as large as what a major company will be collecting. So sometimes we don't necessarily have to trouble yourself about things like this, but keep in mind, and just to ensure that I talked about it, and you're putting it at the back of whenever you to collect from your community. Measure what is measurable and make measurable what is not so. This still goes back down to qualitative and quantitative data. Sentiment analysis is one of the biggest data out there. Nobody knows how to do it. Nobody knows how to use analysis to tell the value of their community, and it's something that you have to learn over time. So now here's the fun part, or a little bit of fun part. I hope. Data is normally boring, so if this is boring, I totally understand. The last class I talked about data as well, and there was this phrase I kept saying that I added from the beginning to the end. Data they boring, normal. So I apologize if this has been boring so far. So let's go into some case studies. So the first case study here is improving user satisfaction, improving community satisfaction. So the example here is a customer support community. So this community essentially is their goal is to support their customers. Their goal is to collect feedback from their customers, help them answer questions. And usually businesses that build this type of community, they want to reduce the number of support tickets, right? Because if you reduce the number of support tickets, you reduce the number of customer service support that you have to hire. So you're helping them to save money. See the journey, right? From community to reducing customer support to increasing customer satisfaction, reduce of support and helping them to save money. Now you have seen how your community is helping your business to to make money or save money or even derive value from the community. So community, they conducted a feedback survey to gauge action, and then when survey, for instance, they saw that a lot of their customers or a lot of their community members within the community are always asking questions, and they're not able to, and they're not getting feedback on time. That's one. Two, I'm just giving a sample. Two, that there's no one place for them to always go for any issues that they have. Three, there's no proper education around the products or around, the services that the community is built for. Now, those are three problems. That's what. So that's one survey for them. That's the day we've got there. Now when entity now went back, what they did was they implemented they created solutions for those problems and implemented them. And so by implementing them, customer satisfaction scores increased 20%. So let's say maybe in January. Now this is a table that I created for you to see real life the data journey for this community. So in January, the customer satisfaction, you can see how low it is, right? Around percent here. The number of support tickets was also very, very high, almost 75%. And then referrals, which we are going to use to see how successful this implementation was also really low. Then in February, after collecting that survey, they implemented those changes, and they saw that satisfaction has increased, but not that much, right? Maybe increased by 10%. Then, but the increase of that 10%, it led to reduce a number of support tickets. I mean, now that there is better place for them to ask questions, there is better education around the product, the number of support tickets has reduced, and the value that deriving from it is an increased word of mouth, increased referrals. They did another survey again at the end of the month as the good community managers that we are. And in March, we saw that the satisfaction score increased again, right? Because of those survey, because that's the benefit of always collecting data, always listening to your community members. And that survey, we did more changes, did more things better, and the satisfaction score increased, the support tickets reduced, and the word of mouth increased. So that means in April, if you should do more stuff, it continues to be like that. So this is one case study of using data to derive value for your community and for your business. Here's another case study. Is an online forum. Here we'll see community growth. So let's see it. An online forum community saw substantial community managers use data to discuss topics. So for instance, in a wellness community, the most discussed topic, where I restricted it to two, was health and skin. A lot of people was talking about their health and how they are eating and things like fruits and blah 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 blah. And another set of topic that they've been talking about a lot is skin. So January, February, sorry, this is supposed to be March. So by encouraging subject matter experts to host Q&A sessions and sharing relevant resources, the committee experienced a 50% increase in new registration within 6 months. Now, this particular chart is actually talking about the first part, so I didn't do one for the second part, but I'll explain. So in this supposed to be January, February, March. Anyways, so in January, skin and health was talked about 200 times, 100 times, really low. And oh, okay, so we can even do it as December, January, February. It follows each other that way. Anyway, it was increasing, and people were always talking about it. And in January, we saw similar thing as well. People were talking about skin, they were talking about their health. And then we've not done anything about it as well. Or let's say in January we started to do something about it, started to increase to get subject matter experts to do event and things like that. And in February we saw that it keeps on increasing. Because of that increase, the community experience, we got 50% increase in new registrations within 6 months. So that means the more we started to talk about it, the more people were talking about that topic, the more we were collecting that data, and the people were, telling other people about the community. Because obviously, we are talking about what exactly they want us to talk about, and then they're also telling other people that, yo, I'm in this community where they're always talking about this thing, come and join. And that adversely affects the increase of new registrations or new members within your community. That's another case study. Now, this is for non-profits for non-profit organizations when you want to justify funding or even literally anything. Profit organization increase the completion rate of their tech scholarship program. Here, I had Inclusive for Good in mind, of course, and it was real. We increased our completion rate by 40%, which is much higher than any industry standard out there. And this adversely affected the follow-up funding, the support, and even the public likeness and public affect towards us, that we're actually really, really focused on the community.
So again, justify funding, justify anything, any type of data that you're able to come about it and able to find value that this is the community or the business in a positive way, it's a huge deal.
Key performance indicators. So I wanted to talk about this because
as far as a community manager, for you to know what kind of KPIs that you're collecting from the beginning.
So it's not like you're already halfway through building your community, or you're already halfway through and you're not collecting the right data. But keep in mind, it's totally fine if you're not collecting the right data from the beginning. And once you find out that, oh, you think we need to start collecting data from now on, just start, right? It's totally fine. I've been in that position where from the beginning of a community that I just built, we were not collecting that data, and it was not easy to backtrack and say that we want to go and collect possible. So a lot of what we did, but immediately we found out, we started collecting that data from that spot, and it really helps because we were able to see a trend, and through analyzing that data, and we're able to see the value of that, of that metrics, and we're able to, at the end of the day, measure the community health. So based on the types of community we have, let me pause it if I'm good to go. Hi.
Yes, you are good to go. You're very audible.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to make sure. So based on the types of community, this is by ComSOR. We have community of products, we have community of practice, and we have community of. Now the member goals are different, the business goals are different. So for instance, the business goals for community of products is you want to reduce support costs. I've given a case study, collect feedback. These are different, different goals, different community. But at the end, it's really, really important that you know exactly what your goals are. Ways to do that. So one, you want to define your community goals and the objectives. Depending on what your community is or what you're doing, how you know what type of community goals to collect. But usually, some of the major communities that people usually collect, regardless of the type of community that you're building, are members, um, community growth, engagement, things like that. So once you know what your goal is, then identify KPI that fits into that goal. So for this table now, we have increased user engagement. To want more community members to engage within the
product or service, depending
on the type of community that you're building. So the KPIs attached to it are active members, engagement rates, time spent on platform. Then set target and benchmarks. So for this target, we're saying that we want to increase by 1,500 community members by Q2. Sometimes people just say active want to grow. and we want to engage, we want people to be engaged, but you have to like really set targets and put also benchmarks, like put a and put a number. Then finally, mind incremental improvement and long-term vision. I didn't add this, but usually what we that let's say an table want to say that by Q3 we are growing by 3,000. That means 50% increase every quarter. By Q4 we want to grow and do 5,000. So that means if you're at if this is 50%, another 50%, then by Q4 maybe we're going by a lot more higher, 50, like 70%. So that's incremental improvement and not just start improvement. Then long-term vision. Long-term vision can be, oh, at the end of the year, or we want to grow by 100,000 community members by one 1 year. So that's the long-term vision. So having a long-term vision as well also really affects how you create your community goals. Then you want to regularly track and analyze your KPIs. So using tools, your dashboard, things like that, that will help you to track all this, really help you to track your KPIs essentially. Then create and adapt. It's not enough to collect data and analyze them. You have to use insights and feedback based on those data to refine over time what your KPI is supposed to be, to refine over time what your community goals and objectives is supposed to be. Because you can go confidently or to meet your stakeholders and really tell them and say that over time, I don't think we should be calculating times platform more. Like it's no longer effective to our KPI or to our goal. What we want to track what we should track should be response time instead. Then you're able to tell them that spent on platform doesn't necessarily tell us anything, but if you're tracking response time like we have been doing, just for us to be able to come and show you, you can see that response time helps us to is directly affect let's say how people are engaged or how people are asking and questions. It's really very it's really beautiful actually if you're able to. I mean, it's really weird talking about data and calling it beautiful, but it is beautiful if you're able to tell a story about your data and about what is relevant to your community and to your stakeholders. So the goal is to turn data into information and information insight. So just like I said, once you have your data, you analyze them, and then after analyzing them, you derive insight from them. You derive feedback from them. You derive and then work, of course, and then iterate and refine before. So I'm at my last part, I think. Yeah. So these are some key ways, best practices. I think I've even been spending a lot of time actually. So as a community manager, I know it can be really difficult to work on data or to harness the full potential of community data. But you can start small, right? It's fine to start small. It's fine to start with whatever data that you have access to, and just kind of improve moving forward. So these are some of my key takeaways that I have learned of. One is to always your community objectives, which also defines your data objective. So when you define the objectives and goals of data collection, you ensure that data is gathered that aligns with your community vision and objectives. This kind of data is what we are. If you collect it, it will affect kind of story that we tell. It will affect our values and things like that. Then two, benchmark and set achievable goals. I already explained this. If let's say you are a community manager that has joined an already existing community, imagine within your first few weeks, you're looking at the data that the community had before and using that to create what your own KPIs should be. So that way you're able to set achievable goals and you're able to track progress against, the previous, community goals, and know if you're a success or if your community is growing, community is healthy, and things like that. Again, use ethical data collection practices. But we don't have a lot of that here in Nigeria, but I think a lot of cybersecurity departments, or generally are trying to ensure that we are being transparent about collecting data, and you community manager just being proactive about it can really, really help. Start by learning what the simplest, ethical data should be, and then, but again, it just really helps you to build trust because your community members can trust you with their data. Then focus on relevant metrics. We've already talked about this as well. The key metrics that align with your community success. What the success means to you as a community manager, and how do you want to tell that story as well. Avoid excessive data. We've seen data that questions or surveys that's collecting data of up to 20 different fields, and I'm like, how many things are you asking? What exactly is important? So try to limit your surveys on the data collecting to exactly what you need. Then regularly monitor and analyze data. Always check to see what happened last month compared to what's happening this month. It will help you to stay informed about your community health and help you to make data. And it just really helps you to be very proactive as well. Because imagine if you know that for the last 3 months, our community growth has really, really been dropping. By month 4, you know that you're starting to do something before you're being queried. The data visualization for community. I did a little bit of data visualization just for you to see kind of some relevance to how data can be told as well. Charts, graphs, infographics, use them to present data in a way that they are. It's not just enough to say that we grew by 20%, but imagine that you're showing that you grew by 20%, and last 3 months you grew by 0.05%. People will be like, whoa, like master community manager, you did 20% compared to previous months. So always use data visual. Which brings me to the next, collaborate with the data analyst. I think over time, as in the community industry, we're starting to have see data analysts within the community team as well. And if you are working in a bigger or a much larger company, their community data, or their data analysts within the community that you can that can help you to analyze the data essentially. Then engage community members in data collection. So use surveys, use polls, use feedback forms. I mean, there's no other way for you to collect data without your members. So your members have to be engaged, to be to give you data as well. And imagine this data or this survey that we're doing, or this poll that we're doing, or whatever, will help us to decide the next thing that we want to do within the community. For a community to be healthy, they'll be willing to, or for a healthy community, they'll be willing to fill that survey or fill that poll, because they also want to decide what's happening in the community, carry your community members along. Then integrate data into decision-making processes. Imagine coming into meetings and saying that for the community team, we believe that we require 50% more budget compared to last month. And you're coming with data, you're saying that, oh, in 3 months or in the last quarter, reduced ticket, thereby saved money. So we think that that money should be redirected towards the community so that we can do more things and be able to tell data, be able to talk confidently and use data to tell people that what we're actually doing the work. And then finally, continuous learning and improvement. Anybody that knows me knows that I always try to ensure that I'm always learning, always staying up to date. And that's the one thing that community managers should always do, regardless. Then finally, these are some practical tips. So we talked about data. These are some tools that you can use to collect those data. If you're using if part of your community, I mean, we are accepting that now. Community platform insight as well, blog insight as well, newsletter insight. Use that to gather and analyze the data. Then regularly communicate data-driven insights to stakeholders. Like, it's really important that you actually share some of the interesting data that you find. Sometimes just telling your people. So within the last 3 months, we saw that a lot of people are really, really talking about health and skin within the community. The community members will be like, yeah, that's so true, that's so true. And so we have a surprise for you today. We have this, experts in the house to come and talk about, how to build better, how to have a better skin. And they're like, yeah, they willingly share it with other people. I would do grow your community again. So share with your people, share your insights with your stakeholders, share them with your community members as well. Organize data in a structured manner. And this is just I won't say it's a random advice, but it's an advice that you just have to learn. Learn how to use Google Sheet, learn how to properly identify your data by dates, by name, so that you can know when you collected this data, or who you collected it from, or how you collected it, and things like that. So it's easy to kind of analyze over time. Then consider using data dashboards. At I4G right now, we use Google Studio, and we have a data person to do that. So you might not necessarily have a dashboard, and Google what easy dashboards are out there for you to use. And lastly, conduct A/B and B testing to experiment with different strategies. Again, this will help you to know um, events on Zoom compared to event on CMX Hub, for instance. Event on IG Twitter space, which one is doing better? What strategies are you implementing on those different times for you to know um, how well things are going and things like that. So those are what AA and B testing can be. Um, Finally, to find signals in data, you must learn to reduce the noise. Um, by Stephen Field, and essentially for me is to it's just to going back to what kind of data you're collecting, what kind of metrics are you tracking. It's not just enough to track everything that is trackable. How relevant are they to you as a community manager, and to your community and to your stakeholders, and overall to your goals, to your objectives, and all that. So I'm taking questions and answers now. I think that it's for me.
Thank you very much for this wonderful session. I really learned a lot, like a whole lot. I've become a data analyst in less than 1 hour. Can somebody please clap for me? So thank you very much. If you have any questions, please you can drop them in the chat, and then Anifa will take them. But while I'm waiting for questions from other people, I actually have a question around data. Most communities, they don't usually see a need to do something. You said you have a data person for your community at I4G, but most communities, they feel like just just engage the members. It's not just to post. It's not just for them to engage. What are you measuring again? So how were you able to do the convincing for them to actually accept that, okay, we need to measure the data we are getting from our members?
Okay, so I'll put that at right now I'm a senior person in the company. So essentially it's like literally like, give me a data person if you want me to do my job well. But then at the same time, we're also in a non-profit. So non-profit is like you have to be data driven. You have no choice actually, because you have to like literally collect thousands of application and analyze those data as well. So on the as a program manager, I think I also have an edge to be able to say that I'm using this data or using the data, data team in terms of the program side and then community as well. But an advice that I'll give to you as a community manager, it depends on of company that you're working for or working in. For a small scale company that they don't have data person at all, it might be very difficult to convince them to hire a data person because they probably don't even have the funds to be able to do that. Again, they're a small scale company. So what our advice is, maybe do a couple of courses. I mean, we community managers we sacrifice a lot already, so we're not just take that sacrifice a little bit further. There are a couple of courses that you can do. And funny enough, the little bit of data that you need as a community manager sometimes is not as large scale as needing to hire a data person. So learning how to use Google Sheets, how to do some manipulations and how to track over time and then turn that into a chart. I think it could be really, really beneficial for you as a community manager, as an add-on skill for yourself. Then if you're working for a much, much larger community, I think it should be pretty, very convincing for you to
Tell them that you need data person
both
managing
data or
analyzing
analyzing
data using
using
Google.
Google Sheets and just
I think her network went off. She should join back in a bit. But in the meantime, you can drop your questions in the chat box. Thank you. Oh, yeah, Brock, we lost you for some seconds.
yeah, internet kind of went a little bit down. So even if you're working for a larger company as well, you can still do a little bit of learning about around how to manipulate and get data and some from. And if you have your data from some data analysts, beg them to analyze some data and that to convince people or for convince the stakeholders at the company that you in that you need to be able to analyze this kind of data moving forward, and you will need the data to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I think the data friends looks like something that would work. Okay, so Blessing has a question. She says her question is going to draw you back able to join time. She was having some issues. So her question is that can you fill her in on the introductions and possible definitions you used while you were starting?
Wow. That might be a lot. I think this session was recorded, so you might be able to have access to a lot of the things I talked about. But I'll try to do a little bit of recap because I talked about a lot of stuff. Um, One is community data is important, and um, you can use as a community that data to make decisions. You can use them to improve your engagement. You can use them to measure how healthy your community is. And then we also talked about the different types of data that you can collect, qualitative data, the data that can't necessarily be counted, like sentiment analysis, like interviews and things like that. Then we also talked about quantitative analysis, quantitative metrics rather. These are metrics that you can count, so member growth or engagement or user counts or things like that. Then we also talked about hybrid metrics. So this is a mixture of both um, quantitative and qualitative data or metrics. So the hybrid metrics are um, a combination of quantitative and qualitative, and yeah, something like your health index is a general measurement of both kind of data that has both the quantitative and quantitative in them. And we also talked about ways that you can collect data and some of the things you should put in mind as a community manager when collecting data. Then I talked about some case studies as well. So case studies in the sense that, so for instance, as a community manager, you were able to measure over time. Let's say you were managing a community supports community, and you were able to measure over time how many people are satisfied with your community, or how satisfied they are with your community, and how it affected the number of tickets, and how it affected word of mouth, and over time it affected the cost of money that the company has to spend on community success, on company's success team. So those kind of things are like some case studies on how you can use data. And I think that's some of it that I can remember of my. I think it was recorded. You can always go back to listen to it.
The call was recorded, so you can definitely go back to it. Please, do we have any more questions coming up? While we're waiting for more questions, Maggie, please, can you go over the sponsorship? Is she here? I don't think so. Okay, so Akin is asking, how can one draw data from a community hosted on WhatsApp? Question if you ask me.
WhatsApp is still a very new community tool, to be honest. And for me, I've not necessarily seen it as a community tool, because you can't, do a lot of what communities are doing on other platforms that are actually built for management compared to WhatsApp. But as a I've not used community tool. I've not used the community tool on WhatsApp for that much things. Not necessarily tracked any kind of data on that platform, because there's no analysis, there's no analytics that you can actually go through. But if your community is not that large, I believe there are some metrics that you can track. So for instance, how many people joined the community over the platform over time. So let's say maybe in January, you guys are like 50. In February, you guys are like 75. So that should help you to track community growth. Then maybe you did a poll, and the number of people that responded to the poll compared to the total number of communities. So that should also help you to track engagements to an extent, right? I think so. So let's say, for instance, you have 50 and you did a poll and 25 people responded. So that means engagement rates can be around 50%, Another metrics that you can track, or another way you can track metrics or data on WhatsApp community. What else? Sentiment as well. So sentiment is essentially saying things around, being a member of the community. Oh, this community is great. I'm really enjoying it. You did an event by giving feedback on the community on WhatsApp. So that could be another type of metrics that you can track as well. And I feel like you just, again, you can mix and match, do a little bit of research, just try to see what is not there but can be counted and used as a type of data. Because at the end of the day, you want to turn data to information, from information to there's that thing. So once you're able to get any insights, just how little that data is, then you're fine, you're good to go. And that's a good start. Hakim.
Yeah, thank you very much. And do you think using the amount of persons that read the message compared to the amount of person it was delivered to, do you think that can be a metric worthy of use?
Absolutely. So that would help you to track engagement as well. Yeah, it helps track engagement, help you to track active members as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do we still have any questions coming in? And so while we wait for the questions to come in, Margaret, can you go over the sponsorship acknowledgement?
Okay. Thank you, Hanifa, for such and thank you everyone for our active participation. So I'd like to say a very big thank you to CMX Connect Lagos sponsors. Our very first sponsor is Common Room, which is the leading intelligent community growth platform. Common Room offers more than 25 native integrations, everything from Slack, Discord, and Discourse to Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, GitHub, Reddit, and Bevy, and also CRMs like HubSpot and Salesforce. Common Room is that application or that platform that you use to unify all community data that also helps to deliver actionable insights. And some of the Common Room customers include community powered companies like Atlassian, Airtable, Confluent, HubSpot, Figma, Grammarly, Notion, and Webflow. Community managers, DevRel, and GTM leaders love using Common Room because it makes it easy to send automated messages, manage and track community cohort programs, set up real-time team alerts for any kind of community activity, discover and deliver new business leads, measure direct business impact with real numbers, and elevate the importance of their community and their role as a leader within the organization. Our next sponsor is beautyodyssey.co. And if you're looking for one-stop shop for all your beauty needs, look no further than Beauty Odyssey. The store offers a wide variety of uniquely crafted beauty products from around the world. They understand that beauty is not only about the body, but it should radiate into one's lifestyle. So every Friday, they do a pop-up shop that brings you uniquely beautiful products for office, home, living, kids, dining, cooking, decorations, and lots more. The beautiful other comes with an additional gift. So visit their website today and experience beauty without borders. And finally, we'd like to say a very big thank you to Microsoft Teams, which is an all-in-one app for communication and collaboration. More is possible when you're together in Microsoft Teams. You can chat, call, meet, share files, and collaborate on documents all in one place. Use communities in Microsoft Teams to engage in community discussions, share files and photos, plan events, and more. No more switching between apps to connect and get things. Microsoft Teams connects you with anyone, anywhere, all from one place. Thank you very much, our sponsors. Back to you, Latifa.
Thank you very much, Margaret. I think we don't have any question. I don't know if Akim is still thinking of sending one because he says he has a question that is not based on data. So we'll be having a raffle on our Teams community. I'll be posting the link in the chat. You can just join. I don't know. Still typing your question. Can you just reply with a reaction? The recorded session will be on YouTube. I would send it to Anifa, or I would post it on C4A and our social media handles as well. Okay, Akim has dropped his question. He says, why is it hard building a community on Telegram compared to WhatsApp?
All right. I think the simple answer to that question is that people have access. Again, it depends on location as well. So I would assume that building an African community or one in Nigeria, for instance, a lot of people have access to their WhatsApp compared to their Telegram. That's one major reason that it's easier to build community on WhatsApp compared to Telegram. And that's why a lot of people tell you that, or a lot of good practice as a community manager is to build a community on platform that your community members already are. Then secondly, to be honest, again, it depends on your strategy, or it depends on your tactics of building your community on Telegram. I've not had a problem building a community on Telegram. So it depends on how important your community is to the people and how you've actually created a lot of your offers and a lot of your content for your community. So on the long run is majorly on those two factors. One being, the one being how easy it is for people to access to that platform, and the second being how your community strategy has been created and how your content has also been for your community members.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer. Okay, I think that answers the question for him. So I think that would be all. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming, and thank you very much, Anifa, for making out time to grace our occasion with your talk, and thank you for the very insightful session. I really learned a lot. One last question: are we going to have access to the slides so that we can share with other members of the community?
Yeah, sure. I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So you can join the raffle using the Teams Live link in the chat. So we'll be moving there in a few seconds. Thank you very much, everybody. Special thanks to Anifa for accepting to give us this insightful session. So we meet in Teams.